Hey everyone, welcome to Church Brain Guide. My name is Michael Persad. Today we're going to be diving into the rebranding process. Like, how do we rebrand our church? At this time, everything's been going crazy. It's post-COVID, and a lot of churches have been forced to go online. And as a result, there's a lot of good that's come out of that. Like, bigger reach has taken place. There's been a lot of technology, like just getting up to speed within a lot of churches. And so I've been getting a lot of people asking about rebranding because they realize that this is a new culture that they're able to uh, reach into if they can do it well. So I want to talk you through what does it look like to rebrand, and that's what this episode is going to be about. So myself and my family, we moved down here in South Florida about a year ago, and we did it as a result of a brand. We basically prayed through a branding process because that's what I do. So I created one for my family, and we moved down here, and I wanted to show our family, my kids, like how do we live out our faith. And so we did it as part of a church plant where we're all helping the church to grow and to succeed in a new area of the country, a church that hadn't existed before. And so it's been really great to see that play out. And South Florida has been just a really great fit for us. And I feel like it's just a really great analogy for what it is to create a church brand, because it's you're just defining where you want to go and the why you want to go there, and then you're being intentional to create the right experience behind it. So we're gonna dive into that. Maybe you're looking to rebrand, you've been thinking about it for a while, and I want to show you some of the benefits of what it is, what the branding process will do for your church, so that you can make a good decision on what it is that you want to do next, whether it's rebrand or maybe hold tight for a little bit longer. So Church Brand Guide, this is where we want your church to help you become your church's brand expert. I want to help you turn strangers into contributors. So attract people and then help them to buy into what you're doing. I want you to steward your resources well, and I want you to say yes to the right things. And really, that's what a brand does. It helps you to have a lens, a framework to look at things. So ultimately, you get more guests showing up, you see more life change taking place, and you get more people to contribute to the vision of your church with their resources, their finances, their time. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a great way to build culture, a great culture that'll help you see your vision become a reality. So we go through 4 steps in the rebranding process. First is to get clear. So you have to be clear about who you are and who you serve. From there, we want to create the right experience. And then we need to attract people. Great brands have ways to bring people in, new people in. And then that's not the end of it. Once we get people to show up, we need to help them to buy in, to become part of the church. So that's what a great brand does well. So again, my name is Michael. We're going to be talking about how to rebrand your church. I'm going to dive into the topic and help you get some clarity about what it takes to rebrand your church and what the process looks like. I've had an agency for over 10 years now, just doing this specifically with churches. I work with some nonprofits and companies as well, but I do this a lot for churches. It's kind of my thing. I love working with churches and helping them go through the branding process. So through all my experience, I've seen this. The problem is that your church has an amazing message, and it just needs to be heard by your city. A lot of times there's just too much noise, and people don't even know you exist. So the solution is this. A well-designed brand allows your church to be perceived as relevant. So people will be drawn to hear the message that you have. So they just need to know that you can help them in their life. And a lot of times as a church, we forget to put that messaging out there, although that's why we exist. We're here to help people, to show them the love of God. And so we just need to be clear in our communication of what that looks like. How can we help people the most? Down here in South Florida, people are lacking purpose. So they have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things, but they don't have purpose in their life. So our church has put our brand has been developed around this idea of helping people find the purpose for their life. and it's been working. We've been seeing people coming to our church and wanting to be part of it, even, just less than a year into it. We're seeing some great things happen. So that's what a great brand allows you to do. Get clear and present your vision in a way that shows them the benefits that you have for their life. So in the Bible, there's a lot of symbols, and branding is really made up of a lot of symbols. Like there's a logo, there's some steps that we might put out there for people to be able to understand what we're all about. So God created us in a way where we think like this. So if we think about it, the cross is a symbol that God has used to communicate the idea of grace and what Jesus did. It's a reminder. The rainbow was used in the Old Testament to provide a promise to Noah, and it provides us with a promise today as a result of that. It's a symbol. The Ark of the Covenant was a symbol that represented God's presence in the Old Testament to the Israelites. So symbols were all over the place in the Bible. That's just a few of them. And how can we create a symbol that it symbolizes God's vision that God has given to us as a church, to our community, to our congregation, to our leaders, and then to our city. So what does that look like? But here's some times where I found that it's a great opportunity to rebrand your church. One is that there's a change in leadership that has taken place. If that's happened in your church, it's a great time maybe for a rebrand to then happen in the same season. Maybe there's an update in the vision that's happening. You were doing one thing, but now you're going to be doing something else. So it's a great time for a rebrand. Maybe there's a transition in your facilities, like you're building a new building, or you're moving into a building, or you're adding on to the building. That's another great time for a reset of your brand. Maybe take the church in a different direction. There might be some more things that are happening, but these are some really great times that you can take a look at a rebrand, and it's well received. It builds momentum, and it doesn't. It kind of honors the past, but at the same time moves you forward into the future. Here's just a breakdown of what a logo needs to look like. So a brand, usually when people think brand, they think logo. Now, a brand is much more than a logo, but the logo is the most seen thing of a brand. It's the most encountered thing. It's the thing that people see the most. So we need to make sure that we get that right. And a good logo is very simple. It looks like there's nothing to it, but usually the process is very, very involved. It takes many hours to do it. But here's just a breakdown of the different types of logos that there are that churches can utilize. There's the word mark, where just a font is the logo. We think of Disney, and that's a great example of a word mark. A letter mark. That's where we just use the initials of the church to be the actual logo design. GE is a great example of that, General Electric, but now we just know them as GE. There's a symbol. So a symbol is just like a badge, a shield, something like that just is a symbol, and the actual symbol itself is the logo. So the NFL shield is a great example of a symbol. Harley Davidson's badge is a great example. Then there's a combination mark. This uses a mark with the words together to make your logo. This is probably my favorite for churches. So the combination mark it's versatile, gives you kind of a mark you can work with, and also the combination of both things together. So it works really, really well. So if we were to just take a look at the next step, once you get your logo designed in place, you still have to design your brand. Like the brand is the standards that you've developed that are the visual standards of your church. It's your colors. Like your colors should always be consistent. You should assign like the actual number values to your colors. Your fonts should be consistent. In fact, there's probably 2 fonts that you need for your church, and that's it. Maybe there's some more, but 2 fonts. Just focus on that, and that reduces the noise. And the idea is that as we're more consistent, we build trust. That's what a brand is all about, building trust. So when people encounter you online, they show up in person, there's a consistency there. It builds trust so that ultimately they decide that they want to be a part of what your church is doing. So a brand guide helps to build that trust. A lot of times a brand guide will have a consistent, how do you create graphics in the consistent manner, or maybe some strategy pieces to it. But a great logo design, if you're having a logo designed, make sure you get a brand guide that locks down the visual elements of your brand so that you are consistent over time. So we just want to get it right. So I want to give you some numbers and some very practical tips to help you know what it takes to get it right. Your brand is an investment. It's worth it because in the long run you'll get a great return on the investment, but you have to get it right. So your logo, let's start there. A great logo design. If you go to an agency, they're probably going to take a good chunk of time and go through a process to design your logo. It might cost you $3,000 to get a logo design. So again, I just want to give you some numbers to play around with so you kind of know what to expect if you're going to do this and you're going to do it the right way. It might cost you another $3,000 to get your strategy in place. So looking up your target audience and your city and kind of learning about who they are and putting together a strategy piece, that consultation is probably going to be a $3,000 consultation to make sure you get all the things in place, everything from your membership process to your what are your steps for the church, your next steps that you have for people. A lot of those things are all part of your brand. What is the language that you're going to use to put out there that's consistent with the vision? How do you create all those things? So that's going to be a great piece to have in place and really fuels everything else. Now we know, like for example, with the logo, you can use a service like 99 Designs, and for $500 you can have 100 different logos submitted to you, and you can pick one, and that's a great option for you to go with. And again, that costs about $500 to get that done. Or even like Fiverr, that's another option where for about $20 you can have somebody design a logo for you and send it over. Or there's the other option where you have somebody in your church that's a high school kid that knows how to use Photoshop, and they can design it for you for free, and you don't have to pay anything for that. But if you want to get it done right, like if you want to invest into it and have it in place for the long haul to help really fuel the vision and just have it done right, then you're probably looking at those agency prices, which is going to range $6,000 for that logo brand piece. It includes a brand guide, a pretty robust brand guide to help you move that forward. So we'll take a look at some of these brands here in just a moment, some examples of some brands of what that looks like. But the other piece to what you need to understand when you're building a brand is the logo is a part of it, but the website is really it's the front door. It's the first place people go to. If somebody invites a coworker to go to church, the first thing they're going to do is pick up their phone and look it up online. They're going to look up the website, and that's going to greatly influence whether or not they show up on Sunday. So you want to make sure the website is done right. And the website needs to be designed to help people come for a visit. Like we need to remove all the noise possible that's internal noise, internal communication. Just make a great experience that's very intuitive so that the new person checking you out decides they want to come on Sunday. So that strategy with a great website build out on a great platform is probably going to cost you another $5,000. So you can expect to pay $5,000 for a really solid church website. Could be a little bit more, definitely could be less, depending on how your approach is, and if you want to get it right or if you just need to get something in place to get you going. And that both are great, very legit ways of thinking. But again, from my perspective, having done this, being a part of a church plant down here in South Florida, I know and I can see the difference that it's made for us to actually just get it right. Like we came down here with about 25 people from Kansas that moved down here to South Florida, which is a tremendous number, by the way, for a church plant to have 25 people be part of the launch, especially moving across the country. Like that's pretty compelling. And a lot of it is because we wanted to get the branding piece right and invite people into it, and they responded. And before COVID shut everything down, our last service was about 211 people. So we went from no church existing at all, and within 7 months, we had about 211 people showing up on the weekend. So that's tremendous growth for a brand new church that has no track record. So that's the power of a brand. And this is just stuff that we've applied ourselves here as an actual case study, but it's also what we've seen and helped other churches do across the country. So again, price point on that, if you want to get it right, you want to have the right playbook in place. Probably looking at a $5,000 website, and then you're probably looking at $1,000 or maybe $2,000 on signage. So you want to make sure that people have a great experience on the property. They see you online, they show up. The colors, the fonts, everything need to be consistent on the property. So you have to have some great signage, navigation to get them to different places, but also values. How do you share your values through your signs and the experience that they have in person? So great signage is a great tool that you can use as people show up on your property to present your brand, to build that trust. And that's necessary as part of the branding process. So strategy, you need that. You need a great logo that's done right. It's vector-based logo design. It needs to be done right. You need a great website that serves at your front door. And you need some great signage so when people show up on your property, it's a great experience for them in line with the brand that they've experienced already. So let's take a look at some of these. This is Crossover Church. We designed this about a year ago for this church in Spokane, Washington. It's an active church that's out in the community doing a lot of good in the community. It's also a church that is in a community that is very physically active. There's mountains and hiking trails, and people are just very active in that Washington State area. It's Eastern Washington State. So we wanted the brand to represent that type of a lifestyle. Their DNA is this tagline that we helped them come up with. It says, "Grow stronger together." So they want to help people grow stronger, and then it's in the context of community, so together. So they're very big on groups and just having that relational component. So you can see how this plays out. On the right hand side, you see some colors that we picked out for them. It's kind of in the green family, and we have some great kind of earth tone colors that represent this church extremely well. The Journey Church is up in Minneapolis. This is a church that's trying to reach out to a younger congregation. The reason for their rebrand is they're going from an older pastor who's going to transition to his son, who's younger, in about a year or 2 years. So they wanted to go ahead and get this branding in place so that a transition can happen. And this brand is really designed to help people navigate their life. So Journey Church, this idea of you're on a journey. Their tagline is to live a better journey. So no matter you're on a journey, you just need to live a better journey than the one that you're on. And the design has these arrows pointing up and down, so kind of this compass feel to it. And in the middle, there's this N shape. It's kind of hidden in there, but it's a secondary element. So the N kind of represents this North Star. So North Star is kind of Minnesota's. It's known as the North Star State, and this idea that the church wants to provide a North Star for people in their life to kind of know their true north. That's a big part of their brand and their DNA as well. So that's the story, and that's really what a brand is. It's writing a great story that people want to be a part of. And then Calvary Church, they're located in Pella, Iowa. So a farming community, industrial community. Pella Windows, a big industry in the area, very blue collar. So this church is a Reformed church. So they're a little bit more traditional in their approach. The people in the community are pretty much Christians, like they know there's a God. They're just not active in a local church. So Calvary Church is trying to engage with those people, get them to show up and become active Christians, like actually make a difference with their lives. And so this brand is really designed around that. It's about growing through discipleship. Their tagline is "Know God, live with purpose." So this idea that they want to help you know who God is, and the result of that is that you live with purpose. You do stuff. So it's kind of a really compelling story for that area of blue-collared workers that are up in Iowa, and this story is what we're presenting to them with the branding. So hopefully that helps you understand what's the difference between a church like the one in Minneapolis that's trying to reach people that don't know Jesus, and they don't care about church, and it looks a certain way. There's no religious connotation to it, but then the church in Iowa is in a community where Jesus is already kind of an important part of the discussion. So they don't want to make that secondary. They actually want to embrace that. So two different looks that reaches two different audiences. So these are just some presentations that I've put together to help you better understand how this plays out. Now, I want to help you do this. That's kind of the passion. So I want to let you know about a couple things, a couple tools that I have. One is a Church Brand Guide membership. So churchbrandguide.com, there's a membership area there where I can help you build your church's brand. I'll take a lot of the concepts that we've talked about and go way deeper on it, and also give you some downloads so that you can actually apply this to your church. Like, for example, I have a photography guide so that you can learn how to take great photos that are in line with the church's brand. Either you learn how to do it, or you can give this to somebody in your church that has a camera, and now they know how to win. So it's a very, very practical membership area. You just log in, you get access to all the content that'll help you get clear as a church. And then from there, attract people. So it talks about marketing, and then also get them to become members. So it kind of walks through the whole process. That's available to you. In there, I want to point out there's a questionnaire that I can guide you through, 23 questions that'll help you build your church's brand. That's part of the downloads. There's a whole module and a teaching on each of the questions. So take advantage of that. It's only $37 to get into the membership. And honestly, you can just get into it for a month and then be done with it. So your cost is only $37. But if you want to keep going, it's a monthly fee, $37. You have access to everything that's in it. And it's my passion, my desire to help churches do branding well so they can reach more people. And this is one of the things that I think any church, no matter what size you are, can get into and make sure that you get it right. The other thing I want to tell you about is a workshop. I have a branding workshop where basically I'll do your branding for you. I do several churches all at once, and we go through a workshop process, and then I come back and I customize everything to your church, and we just get the main things in place for you. So it's your strategy, your logo, your website, and your signage. It's all done in 30 days. It's all done right, and the cost of it, instead of being upwards of $12,000 like we talked about, it's basically $5,999. It's half the price of what you would expect to pay for a professional agency to go through this with you and make sure you get it right. So if you're interested in the workshop, I'd love for you to jump in there. Check the website because there's a great opportunities there for you to jump in. I open it and I close it every once in a while, so check the website for when the next one is. In fact, if you're listening to this and there's still enough time, on June 30th will be the next workshop. I'd love for you to jump in there and be a part of that workshop. If this is something you want to make sure you get in place for the fall and get it right for your church. Well, hey guys, hopefully this helps you out quite a bit. Again, the branding process is just about getting clear. If you're thinking about rebranding, a really good branding process will start with that clarity piece, that strategy piece. Then it's going to create the experience, the logo, the website, all those different physical things to help you represent your church well in the community. From there, we'll put a plan in place to attract people. Great brands attract new people. So we have to have something in place, a strategy to do that. And then it's not over. We have to make sure we get people to buy in. So they stick around. They want to be a part of what's going on in the church, be a part of the vision that God has given you. So this is what a brand does. It was what it should do for your church. It's not just a logo. It's the whole plan, and it goes into everything. It defines your language. It defines the experience that people have physically when they come in. It defines your processes. It defines the experience online. That's what a brand is. It touches just about everything. And I'd love for you to get this right. So reach out if you want to get into my membership or the workshop. I'd love to hear from you. But hopefully this just helps you, gives you some very practical things to chew on if you're thinking about a rebrand for your church so you can reach more people and just help them basically come to know the gospel, the good news that we want to share. Thanks for joining me. My name is Michael with Church Brand Guide, and I'll see you next time.